All right, let's get the show on the road, shall we? Good morning, everybody. Thanks to those of you who joined me early, Dark Strider and I'm a dad and Kairos. Nice to see you. Let me just pop out the chat here. It's a beautiful day in near the vicinity of Hobbiton. Got a fresh pot of coffee. As usual, quaffing my Robert Harris Irish coffee blend. Hey, Ian. Right, so lots to cover this week. As suggested last week, somebody said, why don't you review some products and stuff? And I have actually been getting a bunch of products sent to me at great expense from Amazon, including a whole heap of old school AD&D. There's got the Player's Handbook, Tome of Magic, Legends and Lore. This one's really handy for you guys who want to learn more about the gods and stuff of D&D. And this is the deluxe Player's Handbook. Essentially, this is the last AD&D Player's Handbook that they put out, which I love because the cover artwork is fantastic. Barbarian smashing the door down, because that really symbolises a lot about what old school AD&D was all about. What other... I've got the original Player's Handbook as well. Well, that's... I think that's a second generation one. Monster Manual 2, Unearthed Arcana, fantastic book this one, and Fiend Folio, the original Fiend Folio. But what I wanted to share with you is the latest acquisition I got, which is... And for those of you who are driven to distraction by the fact that I have all my books sitting that way, they won't actually sit with the covers pointing out. Otherwise I probably would do that. Dwarves Deep, Forgotten Realms, written by Ed Greenwood himself. This is an amazing example of what these modules were like for second edition, these accessories. First of all, it's in multiple parts, right? So the cover just is a cover jacket that's got the Dethic runes, the Dethic alphabet, as well as phrases, some riddles actually, on the back here. The Dwarven name tables, what a Dwarven runestone and their writing actually looks like. Traditions for Dwarven names. And we've got a huge... excuse me, dusty tomes. We've got this huge big map of all of the Underdark around the Great Rift in the south of Faerun. So look at that. It even smells good. It's like this. The condition of this product is great. So it gives you all of the tunnels and things like that, and you can have an entire campaign based on exploration of the old mines and stuff and tunnels around the Great Rift. How do I fold this again? Come on, mail DNA. There we go. All right. And the book itself has a range of topics, which basically covers Dwarven culture, language, the Lost Kingdoms, their history, the gods, their priesthood, and some magic items and things like that. And as with Ed Greenwood, the current clack, which is his putting plot hooks and things like that into the story by basically spreading local rumours. So there you go. So that is of great help to me in putting together videos on dwarves, because that is the definitive guide of Forgotten Realms dwarves. You cannot do better. Ooh, lots of chat. Hey Loki, Lewis Nicolaj, Matt, Fiona, Juju Bear. Oh, you can't stay. Oh, nice to see you. Hey, Stardust Soul. Yeah, it has been a bit. Dragon Tail, you haven't missed a thing. Kraken's cracking. It's lunchtime down here in New Zealand. Lunchtime in the middle of winter. It's I saw a bee the other day though, so spring is on the way. Helm, bless you too. It's funny you should talk about Helm. So this week coming up, I've got research material on Spelljammer. So I'm going to be talking about Spelljammer stuff, and this is my beginning of my exploration of Toril series, where I actually methodically go over all of Toril and describe everything about the place, its solar system, and all that sort of thing. I have got, if I've got time this week, I'd like to do a video on giant slugs. And the ecology of the Devourer is the one that is going to be my main sort of topic of the week. Because I've got a really good article from Dragon Magazine number 355 on the ecology of the Devourer, including greater Devourers. Hey, thanks, Urosh. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Giant slugs are actually more terrifying than you would imagine. So, yeah, there's that. So, yeah, spelljammery stuff as part of the exploration of Toril is one thing I want to do. Yeah, it's a fantastic map. Nerd 30. The Bone Claw, yep. Was that you who mentioned the Bone Claw earlier in the comments and on YouTube? Yeah, Bone Claws are interesting, and I haven't covered the Bone Claw yet, so I suppose expect a few more undead videos. There's so many undead and so many demons and stuff to cover in D&D. I could just keep on doing them forever. Yep, we're going to have a Spelljammer video this week. I know. Well, it is an unseasonably warm winter here in New Zealand as well, so don't feel that left out. No cheese, no. 117 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that in Celsius? A lot. I'm guessing. Is it in the 40s? Oh, nice. A night shift over in... Yeah, right, it would be 12 o'clock at night over there. Semi-used to it. Today's stream more late than usual, or is it just... No, it's the regular time. Jan Chivik. Well, I've got a quite extensive, long video on flail snails. In fact, that was it was a kind of a signpost video, that one, when I made the video on this flail snails, and it was well over, I think it was like a half an hour long, and that sort of it signaled to everyone that I was willing to give an in-depth ecology for any creature in Dungeons and Dragons, no matter how deceptively simple it seemed. But flail snails are not simple creatures. Mainly because the iridescent shell that they have has anti-magic properties, which makes it very, very interesting for a sort of a dungeon economy sort of thing. And adventurers going into the Underdark so that they can just hunt down a flail snail and use it for components and things. And then you can build up a whole plot line about the flail snail actually being a mascot for a kobold community or something like that. That's protecting them from a dragon that is trying to take them over or something, You can really spin all sorts of wonderful stories using fairly simple things. Flumps? What about flumps? Yeah, it's just past morning over here, so it's just the start of the afternoon. 47 degrees Celsius. Okay, that is too hot. Anything even approaching 50 degrees Celsius is way over the limit. The hottest I've ever experienced is 44 degrees for about 3 or 4 days, and that was enough for me to leave Australia. I was like, nah, no thanks. You love the flail snail video? Yeah, I like making it. Has he done I'm right here, Brian. You can talk to me directly. I haven't done a video on Mammon yet, no. Troll Barbarian with a ring of fire resistance and plate mail of acid resistance. His name is Ballsmack the Grimscrunch. Okay. If you're running that sort of campaign, fine. Mortal was ascended to godhood, but they are highly divided. Half are really good, half are really evil. Would it make two deities, or just one with two aspects, or multiple personality disorder? It's not quite how it works, Dragon Turtle. So I guess it would really depend on the followers of it. So you'd have to have two different sets of followers in different multiverses. So the good half and the evil half would have to follow the same career path. You see what I mean? So it would be highly unusual. And what happens to those mortal aspects, those mortal beings in various dimensions that don't follow the godhood path, is they just live their lives as mortals and die. It's that ascension to godhood is a far more nuanced and selective process. It doesn't just draw up every single soul that's associated with that personality, I guess. I mean, it's not an exact science, godhood in D&D. It's magic, it's wibbly wobbly, it's timey-wimey, it's hoogy-woogy. Hey, thanks, Robert. Had a rough week and I want to have some fun, and was wondering if you had any advice on preparing a lair and roleplay and actions for a bardic lich. Oh, a bardic lich. Okay, so I'm thinking funeral dirges, mournful songs, a cadre of banshees who are actually backup singers with a wailing chorus. What else? Will-o-wisp light show. Something that can cast illusions, some sort of evil pseudo dragons, or fairy dragons who exude an exotic mist of hallucinogenic particles that create a miasma mist that draws townsfolk, or perhaps lures in patrons of the arts from all around who become obsessed with mournful songs and a pervading sense of doom and gloom, like a D&D goth movement with teeth. How does that sound? And as for the lair itself, it's like a ultra campy goth, hot gossip sort of lair of the bardic lich. I think it's a fantastic idea. What's my favourite Magic the Gathering colour? At the moment, red, but not direct damage red. It's a dragon deck of red that I like. I also like the Gruul deck, Riot deck of green and red, which is a lot of fun. I've been inflicting a lot of damage in this current build. Hey, Ian. A bardic lich would believe in really evil instruments, so the lair would be filled with ghosts of children all playing recorders, driving the place, playing recorders. That's fantastic. That barbarian would worship Smashy Bits, Lord of Destruction. Will I make Volo's monsters now that I've completed the monster manual? Yeah, well, so I didn't methodically complete the monster manual until I realised I was pretty close to the end of completing it, so I sort of went A to Z towards the end there. But originally I was making monsters of just whatever struck my fancy and whatever people were requesting. So yeah, I guess I'll have a look how close I am to completing Volo's guide, and I suppose I could methodically go through those as well and complete it. Hey, you're welcome, Robert. I hope that gives your players the heebie-jeebies. A mournful lich about songs about his fading looks as his body slowly decays. Yeah, the dragon turtle. That's a good point about the purple dragons and stuff. There are conflicting different types of purple dragons, which has caused me great grief over the years because everybody's like, "Oh, do the purple dragon that I like." It's like, well, the only difference between that one and that one is the energy weapon for their breath weapon. So that makes for a really boring lore video. So no. I'm going to be redoing a lot of the dragon videos anyway, so we'll have a look. If it comes to that, I can redo all of the dragon videos. A lich in an underground library, a librarian with scrying devices and a mirror that can see galaxies and a crystal ball and lots of scrolls and manuals. Yeah, that's pretty much what I think of liches most of the time, actually, is they're just a scholarly sort of undead. I mean, it's nice to think of the lich as, you know, and you think of Thay and how politically active those liches were. But for the most part, liches just are interested in preserving their magical knowledge because that's what sustains them. Magic is everything to a lich. Mazdacar is not the Forgotten Realms, New Zealand and Australia. Mazdacar is South America, essentially, in D&D, whereas the continent of spelled OSSE, so Aussie, on Toril is the continent of Australia, but it hasn't really had any sort of fleshing out whatsoever. So you're free to put whatever you want on there. Do Yonti deal with devils, demons, or daemons the most? Hard to say. So it really depends on the individual Yuanti. Those who are interested in immortality would probably deal with... well, that wouldn't be something that devils really approve of. They don't want mortals to be immortal because they want their souls eventually. So probably Yugoloths and less so demons, although the really crazy ones like the anathemas and the Malazons and stuff who are into mutation and things might have truck with demons to sort of try out new things. But Yuanti are very cold and logical and emotionless, so they do whatever is the most effective. They don't deal with the rage of demons so much. It's complicated. So I'd say, yeah, probably Yuanti would deal with Yugoloths mostly because they understand money and commerce and transactions and deals. Was there an issue of Dragon Magazine that dealt with ghostly bardic spells? I don't know. I'll have to look. Offhand, I can't remember. Lizard people do have teeth, yes. Kung Fu style movie where two evil ones played through razor blades on the air. That makes a... Oh yeah, that was that. What was it? Kung Fu Hustle. Was that the one? Yeah, Kung Fu Hustle was the movie where they had the bards that played an instrument that flew through flying blades. That was really good. His troll is terrified of creatures smaller than him. That's a nice weakness there, Shiv. Yeah, Dragonlord, I'm not that okay with the idea of accidental liches because it's very easy for a lich to not be a lich anymore. Curing itself is as simple as finding somebody to resurrect them, essentially. That's all they need to do. And for a lich with a long period of time in order to do that, it's quite possible. Like, it is possible for someone to become a lich and then become immortal again, and then become a lich again, and then become immortal again. So that has got precedence in the lore of D&D. Hey, Scorch. Can we get a video on Zariel at some time? Yep. Right, well, there's more information on Zariel in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, I believe. And there'll probably be a lot more information on her in Descent into Avernus, the new Baldur's Gate supplement. So I'll probably wait and see what they've done with Zariel, because they may actually have advanced the lore a little bit, which would make my video out of date very quickly. Yeah, that's a reasonable assumption, Dragontail, that only the mortal interdimensional counterparts have a significant following, which have a significant following would ascend to godhood. Yeah, bears have teeth. Kung Fu Hustle, yeah, that's the one. The Devourers are not D&D Tyranids. No, they're a type of undead that essentially captures souls. If I can show you a picture here. They are an empty husk of a humanoid. And I don't know if you can see this picture very well. But in the chest of the Devourer there is a little captured soul of somebody. They look really terrifying, actually. So a greater Devourer looks like this, kind of like a flying supervillain. But they are, I like them because they're quintessential undead. They have this, they are empty apart from their hatred of life and their hunger for it at the same time. They're just a husk of a creature. Hey, thanks, Mr. Werewolf Dude. You've been one of the best supporters of my live streams for a long time, so I'd just like to say thank you very much. It's much appreciated, and I definitely I look for your name. Mr. Werewolf Dude is top supporter of the live stream, and the Greed Dragon thanks you very much. Lizard folk teeth, actual teeth with enamel and nerves. In Mr. Rex's video, and a pinned comment explains the teeth are bone of the skull that pushes through the gums, apparently. Yeah, well, lizard folk are not, strictly speaking, lizards. They're not, strictly speaking, cold-blooded either, because it doesn't really work very well in Dungeons & Dragons, particularly if you want to play a lizard folk going into various environments. So, for instance, you wouldn't have a lizard folk ever go anywhere near snow-topped mountains, or, you know, they sort of stick in the warm places if they're cold-blooded. So, maybe they're more saurian, more dinosaur-like, more bird-like, perhaps. So, in that case, they might have enameled teeth. It's possible. It could actually be that they're extensions of the skull that break through and have enamel. So it's hard to say, really. Like if I was playing a player character and I had my teeth smashed out and I was informed by the Dungeon Master that they will never grow back and I've lost my bite attack forever unless it's like healed magically, that'd be kind of a bummer, but it'll be okay, I suppose. And really that's about as far as it would go gameplay wise. Hey, Scott. Right, Daniel. Yeah, so the clone spell, don't forget that not everybody has access to every single spell in Dungeons & Dragons. Case in point is something that you'll learn about Spelljammer in the video. There's something that people don't know about the about the crystal sphere of Toril, which makes it really interesting. What was one of my favourite videos to record? The one on Demogorgon, obviously, with the big long intro and all that sort of stuff, was one of my favourite to record because it was so out there and long and experimental, and I knew that the long intro to it was both appropriate for Demogorgon and also probably going to be unpopular with a lot of people because it was so long and so unusual for YouTube. Like the real drive for YouTube for a long time was to do short, quick, snappy stuff, jump edits, all that sort of thing. Not so with my channel. My channel is about the mood and the atmosphere, and also just imparting a lot of information and keeping it reasonably low-key and relaxed for people so they can just listen to it while they're doing whatever they're doing during their day. So I don't feel that pressure to make short, snappy videos. And that's why I'm glad that other YouTube creators are concentrating on D&D, and they are making snappy, short-ish videos. And I really do appreciate that Jordan's got a different take on doing things, and he covers different topics to me. Arthur Kadawa does sort of popular media, monsters and movies and things, and really just gets in-depth and discusses all aspects of a werewolf, not just a D&D type info. So you can get inspiration from his videos if you want a different take on a monster than Dungeons and Dragons looks at it. Mr. Rex, obviously, he's got a really huge audience, and he's got a distinctive style that he uses, and he covers similar sort of topics to me, and goes quite in depth with them as well. And he's got a style that a lot of people really enjoy. So I don't feel any competition with those guys, and I enjoy making the sort of videos that I make, but I also like getting a lot of feedback from other people as well. And every bit of feedback that I get on the channel, particularly the really negative feedback, helps me a lot. So I always appreciate it. All right, that's right. Yeah, Frask was a lizardfolk character that Ian had in the campaign, and when he lost a tooth, he replaced it with a knife. That was pretty good. Ah, that's interesting. Clone creates an identical, though couldn't be younger, version of the original caster. A Lich gains extra power and ability. Therefore, clone for immortality, Lich for power overwhelming. Yeah. What are my thoughts on the Mystara setting? I really like the Mystara setting. It's hugely complicated. It's quite different from the Forgotten Realms, particularly in its cosmology and the way that deities and stuff work. They don't really have gods, they have immortals. So Mystara is all about the idea that a player character can become a god. And that is the way that their structure of their cosmos is worked out, and that's also the protection of Mystara as well. So if a god or a powerful entity from another realm goes over to Mystara and into their sphere, they'll get their ass kicked by immortals. So yeah, it's a really interesting setting. Also, they have an incredible diversity of different cultures and stuff in Mystara. There's a really good channel. If you can handle the guy's video style, he's got a lot of information like I do on Forgotten Realms. And yeah, and he's very passionate about it and wants Mystara to come back as a major setting. The thing about Mystara is that the D&D basic setting, so this is basic, expert, companion, master, and immortal set, which is, they've got an acronym for it, was one of the most well supported, and the lore for Mystara came out all in one big sort of successive group of supplements that came out over a period of years. And Basic was supported for a very long time. It was the longest running edition of D&D. That sort of was concurrent with AD&D and also 3rd edition, I think. So 2nd edition and 3rd edition was going on in the background of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but Basic was this big long thing, and Mystara was its world setting. So it's as well supported as Forgotten Realms was in many ways, but it sort of went out of fashion. It doesn't mean that all of the books and stuff are outdated. It's just they're sort of frozen in time, but you can pick them up and insert them into your campaign using 5th edition rules really easily. So yeah, I think Wizards of the Coast would probably be I don't know if they're able to use that material, what the copyrights and all that sort of stuff on it is, whether they own the rights to Mystara or not, I'm not sure. But I really like Mystara. Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's quite different from Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms is almost more a lower level of fantasy than Mystara is. Thanks, I'm a dad. Oh, thank you. So, Dragon Magazine number 328 has an article on Vash Prule's Symphony. Lots of ghostly bardic spells. So, there you go. Thanks, Green Scythe. Well, Planescape is integrated into 5th edition. This is the thing. Planescape and Spelljammer is integrated into 5th edition. That is the assumption of the designers when they are making their books and stuff, is the idea that it works perfectly well with Spelljammer and Planescape. So they don't need to make separate supplements. 5th edition is Spelljammer and Planescape. It works seamlessly. Thanks, Robert. What would be the setup for different spellcasters that choose Lichdom, like a Warlock Lich, Sorcerer Lich, or a Cleric Lich? So the ritual for becoming a Lich just requires that you are a spellcaster of a certain level. I think it's 11 or so. And the rituals may be slightly different depending on where you find the information. So, yeah. Usually by the time that a spellcaster gets to, like if a spellcaster is deciding to be a Lich, they can cross-class into whatever sort of thing they want. So a Cleric could take some cross-class into Wizard a little bit, and that would give them access to rituals and stuff of an arcane nature. But there's different versions of the Lich transformation ritual that you can find. What it really comes down to, what I'm saying really, is that it comes down to the Dungeon Master, because you don't like if you're questing to become a Lich in your campaign, and it's not a campaign where the player characters are all evil, then when your character becomes a Lich, your Dungeon Master has every right to say, okay, take your character sheet off you, puts a Lich down on the table in front of him and says, your character is now a Lich, everybody roll initiative. You don't automatically get to say, well, my character's a Lich and he's still good, he's still of a good alignment. Nah, no, because that's impinging on the rights of your DM. You can't basically force them into agreeing with you that Liches can be good, unless you've had a chat with them about it earlier on. Oh, thanks, Nicolaj. Yeah, like I say, Mr. X and me we're side by sides in a continuity of D&D lore. We're not competing with each other at all. In fact, I don't have any contact with Mr. X at all, but I'd love to collab with him someday. Lucas! Oh, you missed so much, man. Yeah, in the Creature Codex. So I've got the world setting for Midgard. That was another big load of books that I got sent over at enormous expense, and I got charged through the nose by customs for them. But I wanted to read up on the background lore and the world of Midgard so that I could ground these creatures in the setting that they were supposed to be used for. So when I'm making lore videos about them, I can talk about Midgard and talk about placing them in Faerun as well, but get a better understanding of where they are from and what they're supposed to be doing on the worlds that they were written for. So that was important to me, I think, before launching into those books. Spelljammers with railguns. Have I used Kajak, that's a very good question. Have I used the D1000 Wild Magic chat? Look at this. So I've got a few supplements that I use all the time, and Ian will tell you this. I use Raging Swan's GM Miscellany Wilderness Dressing. I printed it out and bound it using wood glue. Same way you would make a pad. I use this all the time in D&D. And also the Net Librum of Random Magical Effects version 2.0 by Aurex. And this is a D. You roll 4d10 and roll on this D1000 random roll table, which is this entire book. And it gives you a random effect. And this is really great if you want to have high-level mishaps, magical mishaps, and things like if you misuse an artifact or something like that. So just to randomly open it up onto a page, and we'll pick 7815. The ground now at target's feet suppresses magic within 10 yards. Permanently? We don't know. When the target dies, everyone who knew him forgets all about him. It's random magical effects. It's fantastic. Other things that I may occasionally use in my list of random roll tables here. I use a lot of Raging Swan stuff. So, Treasure and Trinkets, I loot the body. GM's Miscellany Dungeon Dressing, and GM's Miscellany Urban Dressing. So, these ones basically give you random stuff, which like statues and monuments. At its base, a small water basin or wishing well filled with copper pieces and the occasional silver coin. It's just random stuff. So if you're DMing and you've got an empty room or something like that, you just roll on that table, come up with some random stuff in there, roll on a couple of different tables, combine the effects, and you can base an entire half hour of roleplay on something which you didn't plan at all. So you're exploring it at the same time that the players are, because it's new to you as well. So it's a very fun way to DM. Yes, Zion. I have a two-part question for you. So can you look at my questions directly aimed at you in the chat? Yes, I can. I'll try to. Dragon Turtle. Well, yes and no. Deities can have a connection to the positive energy plane. They don't necessarily have to have a connection to the good or negative energy plane. In a way, everything's connected to the good and negative energy planes. Lantern, yeah. Ooh. Sorry, I'll get to your question in a second, Kick-Ass Duke. I'm just trying to find those questions from Zion. What was the point of dragon shape-shifting scenario if originally only Bahamut, gold, silver, and rare case bronze dragons and maybe very old red dragons could shapeshift, but now any of them can? Well, they've always been able to shapeshift using magic. All dragons can learn magic. So it kind of became a moot point that metallic dragons could shapeshift. I think the main thing with them being able to shapeshift racially, as opposed to through learned ability, is that it gave them resistance against somebody dispelling the magic which concealed their identity. So it was really more of a plot device that metallic dragons would hide among the populace and help people, whereas chromatic dragons had no inclination to do so. And they would send agents instead to infiltrate and disrupt communities. Kick-Ass Duke, thanks for the donation, man. That's great. How do you access Dragon Magazine articles? Online, or do you buy the physical copies to have shipped to you and read from? I like to read them myself. Do you have physical copies just for a collection? I do have a lot of copies of Dragon Magazine. I don't have all of them. Otherwise, I use electronic copies of them. I'll probably have a discussion with people privately on Discord to chat about how you can get access to a lot of D&D material. But I can't really talk about it in a live stream. Can only humanoids become liches? No. Case in point, Draco liches. The more appropriate question would be, can only intelligent creatures become liches? That's more interesting. Can a myconid become a lich? Yeah, I don't see why not. I think a Thri-Queen could become a lich, yeah. Could a squirrel become a lich? Squirrel lich. That's fantastic. Becoming a lich could be thought of as the death of ego. Oh, well, basically, if their charisma is based on their looks, maybe. What was the point of... Do I have any thoughts about the astral projection spell in 5th edition compared to earlier editions, or why the 5e1 is useful as opposed to clone and plane shift? I think I'll have to look up the astral projection spell and get back to you on that one. I haven't used it in any campaigns. Whoa. Matt, there are a lot of named angels. I just didn't cover them in the video. Normally, sometimes at the end of videos, I'll cover specific named individuals of that particular type of monster or whatever. In the angels video, there's actually a lot of named angels in D&D. Do I think D&D would be better or worse with a classless system? Dragon Turtle, that's a good question. Sometimes I like the idea of starting out a campaign with characters who are 0 level. So not only do you have like a session 0, but you also have 0 level characters who you role play them becoming a character class. So their first level, their 0 level, is really about them gaining the attention of a guild or something like that takes them on and trains them to be a thief or a warlock or whatever. Particularly warlocks, somebody like role-playing the actual making of a pact is fantastic. And I think a lot of people miss out on that opportunity to do that because it just never occurs to them to start off your campaign as an ordinary 0 level human whose only notable features are their high attributes compared to the regular sort of people. So, if you take away the classes from characters, they're very unusual in that some of them have Olympic level abilities just naturally. So, how much of their attributes are because of the training of their class, for instance. Like, you're very likely to give a very high dexterity to your rogue, but did they just naturally have an inclination to have a very high dexterity, or is that implied in their training? Did it accentuate something exceptional about them? So did whatever turned them into a rogue in the first place have some influence on their attributes between 0 level and level 1? So, and if you wanted to get rid of experience levels entirely, for instance, and had it entirely based on a merit system or a story-based progression. So in that case, it can be quite tricky for spellcasters because they don't automatically get spells. They have to go out and find them, which can be really tricky. And also would indicate it makes sense that there's not very many high-level wizards because the process of going and finding spells is quite often lethal because it involves adventuring. So there's that. And there's lots of little things that you can do to majorly shift the way that the gameplay works. Like in last week's live stream, I was talking about Midgard and the way that they extend time between gaming sessions, so that it's actually weeks since you last joined your characters. You know, they don't just camp for the night; they actually go back to town and do stuff for a few months, rest and recover, restore their abilities, and then go out and carry on their adventures. And it could be months between different adventure sessions. So you actually have a career where the character physically ages and has children, and your next character is the son of or daughter of the last character that you had, which is another fantastic way of playing the campaign. So yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can tweak D&D, and it's perfectly okay to do so. So if you wanted to have a classless D&D character that just picked and chose from particular different aspects of different classes, character classes from the game, that were entirely based on what's going on in the campaign and the story, that is perfectly legitimate. That's a fantastic way of playing. Just don't expect to take that character and put them into somebody else's game, because it's not going to work. Thanks, Sun Warrior. Running a level 14 8-layer dungeon, each layer created by an evil mage specialised in one of the schools of magic and functions like a demiplane. Stumped on how to theme the diviner's layer. Divination. So, this is a good way of bringing in the multi-dimensional trap. So, imagine that in the middle of the diviner's layer, you've got a dark crystal, which is broken. And what it's done is it's formerly, when it was originally built, the crystal was perfect and it allowed 8 different mirrors in different sections of the dungeon to view different planes of existence, right? Or the same plane of existence. So 8 different locations in the plane of existence, or maybe parallel dimensions where different decisions would result in different things. Like imagine you're in a choose your own adventure book, and each mirror is a thumb on a page where a decision you made where if it screws up and goes really badly, you can go back to that decision and go a different path. But when the crystal broke for some reason, each of those mirrors became a portal, allowing free access between those different dimensions. And when the player characters go into that dungeon layer, they are stepping through one of those mirrors from their particular reality connected to that dungeon. And at the same time, in 8 different locations in that dungeon, different versions of those player characters step through at the same time, following their course of events, and their different lives have led them to this exact same situation where they step through into the diviner's dungeon at the same time, and the potential for mayhem and roleplay just skyrockets. So yeah, that's my idea for a diviner's dungeon. It's basically Stargate gone crazy. Oh, I've missed so much chat. Lucas, almost missed that. Thanks, Lucas. Can liches change after sanctifying the wicked? Can liches change after sanctify the wicked spell? I'm not familiar with sanctify the wicked. Is that where is sanctify the wizard? Hang on. I'll look at D&D Beyond. Just a second. I have no idea what that is. You lost me. Can you explain what a Sanctify the Wicked spell is? Yeah, so it's not clear whether the lichdom on dragons is actually intentional or not. Whoa. Ian, stop texting me. What are the physical differences between Saruk and Yuan-ti abominations? Saruk are a distinct race, and Yuan-ti abominations are a mutation of an existing race. So Saruk also have, I think, inherent spell-like abilities, and are just generally pretty awesome. It's been so long, though, that I don't know if there's any still existing breeding populations of the original Saruk, because they've moved on. Could the D&D multiverse survive a Tyranid hive fleet? I would love to see a supplement. If anybody's got a supplement in the Dungeon Masters Guild for a Tyranid hive fleet done for 5th edition, that would be fantastic. I see nothing wrong with that in a campaign. Imagine that, you're running some sort of political intrigue campaign and then all of a sudden a Tyranid invasion happens on the world of Toril. Dragon Turtle. Do all crystal spheres have weird runes on them or just Torils? Well, I'm actually going to talk about that. So I'll answer that question directly in the next Spelljammer type video. What are some tips or advice for making sure the characters you play are not all the same? Just whenever you are making a new character, consciously make different decisions, and really depends. Like if you're a person who likes to roleplay using a voice for your character, that's one way of doing it. So you pick a different famous person or stereotype or character from a movie or TV show that you like or a cartoon, and consciously try to put yourself in that character's shoes through the medium of D&D. So that's one good way of making a very different character from what is just coming from the inside of you, sort of thing. Because the idea of D&D is to enjoy yourself and have a different sort of, step outside of yourself a little bit. But it's not entirely necessary to play a different personality type entirely every single time you play D&D. And most people don't do that, in my experience. But yeah, just pick something quite different from your last character is the best way of doing it. What are the homebrew rules or things you do enjoy in games you run or play in? So different type of homebrew rules we have. Like for instance, I give out inspiration points. I give out a natural 20, an automatic natural 20 as a birthday gift to my friends who are in my D&D groups. We have you're not limited to just one inspiration point, so you can accumulate inspiration points. There's been lots of different homebrew sort of rules and stuff that we used. For instance, the sleep spell is quite different as well. We don't base it on just hit point totals and stuff as well. It's actually a saving throw against it. No, Kikasu, I've never played Monster of the Week. I'm still reading about the Midgard setting, James, so I'll let you know. You cast into a diamond and kept there for a year to make sure the wrongdoings have become good. Can half dragon, dragonborn, draconic sorcerers, or spell scales or become Dracoliches or just normal liches? Half dragon would be a Dracolich. Dragonborn would be a normal lich. Draconic sorcerers would be a normal lich. Spell scales would become a normal lich. So only the half dragon would be a Dracolich. I missed a super chat. Hey AJ, I have a pet theory. I think Obox Obs is the Shard of Ultimate Evil. So I guess I'm going to need to make a video about Obox Ob, because I've hinted about Obox Ob's importance quite a lot. Obox Ob is the abyss, in a way. Obox Ob is the source of the contagion that is boiling through the abyss. He's one of the most dominant souls that came through from another universe, and allowed this corruption of elemental stuff to happen in the first place. It's hard to describe though, because he's so ultimately chaotic that it's hard to describe the mechanics that actually caused this breach through the multiverse in the first place. So yeah, you're right. In many ways, Obox Ob is the abyss. And when a bunch of deities tried to shut down and destroy a layer of the abyss, or a couple of layers of the abyss and Obox Ob actually rose up and struck at them. So Obox Ob he's not only a vermin lord and a much reduced ego in one of the lowest levels of the abyss that's separated by this huge yawning gulf, but he's also pervasive through the abyss as well. So he forms that reactive biological sort of resistance of the abyss itself to any attack. So yeah, it's really tricky. So they couldn't destroy Obox Ob. The Queen of Chaos, Obox is Chris Perkins. Yeah, so the Queen of Chaos couldn't destroy Obox Ob. She could just reduce his power or shatter him. That's one of the other things about demons, is they can actually be splintered. Their souls can be splintered apart into different objects. They can get Horcruxed as part of their. They can survive that because they've survived worse in their transition from the realm of the Oberonths. No, I don't have a video on Dublex yet either. Yeah, so I've got to research Obox Ob, I've got to research Dublex, I've got to research Zugtmoy, and bring you those demon lords as well, fairly soon. Again, Sage, time and the initial conditions of the multiverse of D&D have changed multiple times because of the actions of gods and primordials changing time. So the origin story of the Abyss is split amongst many different realities, of which the current paradigm of D&D is just one of. So there's multiple stories of the origin of the Abyss. There's multiple stories about the origin of the Nine Hells. That gives you, as a dungeon master, realm to pick and the ability to pick and choose what origin you want to use in your D&D cosmology. It's entirely up to you. I just present whatever I can to make it sort of a cohesive sort of idea of what the D&D multiverse is. Have I ever made my own Demon Lord? Not so much. We don't have a lot of truck with Demon Lords in my campaigns, mainly because Ian usually throws in the towel as soon as anything he thinks that his character can't beat pops up. If the prospect of fighting a Demon Lord pops up, Ian will probably suicide his character. That's my payback for you texting me. I'm sorry for missing your your super chat, Hexadecimal. Hey, we've reached the 100 mark of everybody watching. Hi, everybody. You know what? Just for that, I'm going to go for an extended time this week. Any plans on an Inevitables video? Yes, very much so. Marut and Inevitables and Modrons, another exploration of Modrons. Oh yeah, Yubtub. I suppose Yubtub is a demon lord. Okay, so guilty as charged. Cass the Destroyer, I think I sort of covered a lot about Cass in the video on Vecna. That was really talking about the origin of Cass and who he is. Haven't done anything on Lord Soth. I think I talked about Lord Soth on the Death Knight video. I don't have any plans on doing a Ravenloft video at the moment. If I ever run a Ravenloft campaign, then I will be really motivated to read up on Ravenloft. But I've never run a Ravenloft campaign, so yeah, I haven't done a lot of vampire stuff either. Oh, we've gone under 97. We're back to 97 watching. Oh well. Has a D&D character ever died from cancer? Shit. No, not in my games. Can a paladin cast Searing Smite with his fists? The rules say it must be a melee weapon, but personally I overrule because it's awesome. What do you think? I think a crosscast paladin monk using a flurry of blows using radiance, for instance. Ian's currently got a character that is like a radiance machine gun. Oh yeah, yeah. I do use a lot of Chul and Ropers to kill characters. That's true. Thune. Well, yeah. Thune was a 4th edition thing. I had a theory about Thune that was pretty good actually. In 4th edition, there was a gateway god between the Far Realm and the rest of the multiverse. So it was like a living separation, a god that was almost like a mythal. And inside that god, the Quam race lived in perfect harmony with their deity in paradise. Their every need provided for. And then what happened was a group of gods got together and they were fighting against the forces of chaos, and they broke the living gate in the course of that conflict and actually killed the living gate, which split apart into all these shards of radiance, which became the shard mines, and shards became chief components in artifacts and spells, and even could be found everywhere, even in other races and beings, which the Quam went on a quest forever after to try and find fragments of their living god and put it back together again, which was very much a Humpty Dumpty quest and kind of insane. Hey, thanks Kikarstuk. Okay, part 2. I've been here a while and don't know Yubtub. Spill the beans. And 2, Grung or Klinkali, talk about what you know, your choice. Oh, Grung. So I'm also planning on doing a Grung video. I've gathered together a lot of material on Grung. So I'll be doing a Grung video very soon. I don't know what Tlinkali... Is that the Frog Lake people? Hang on, what are the Frog Lake people called? There's 3 different groups of frog-like amphibians. Oh, and there's also the newts. So there's fire newts, there's bullywug, there's the frog people, and then there's Grung. Can't remember what the frog people is. Where was I? Oh, Thun. Okay, so the idea is that the living gate has a prime material entity, which was the living gate, this sort of godlike person, and then on the far realm side of it, it had an aspect of it which was Thun. That was my theory, and that there was a bunch of mind flayers that went over to the far realm and came back, radically changed, and obsessed with this entity called Thun, and biomanipulation and making bio-robots and creating living, organic sort of robo-cyborg weapon things. And yeah, that was fantastic. Real alien sci-fi stuff. Yubtub was a drawing that I did, and we came up with some sort of theories and stuff behind it. So it's essentially a draconic beholder hydra. It's okay, Sage. Troglodytes are reptiles, I believe, not amphibians. So Yubtub is the YouTube god. Yubtub, YouTube. So that's what it is. All hail Yubtub is us saying. All hail YouTube. Oh yeah, my current campaign is every Tuesday night. Unfortunately, that's not recorded because I don't want to record that game because it's just me hanging out with my friends. Yeah, Beholder Hydra Dragon. And we just named it YouTube. Yubchub. Dark Sun is no. Dark Sun is, well, it can be a demiplane or a different sphere if you're following the planescape. It can be a different plane if you're following planescape, and it can also be a sphere if you're following more of a spelljammer, or it could be both. What did you never realize, Ian? Yeah, Athos is it's an homage to Jack Vance's Dark Sun dying. Well, Dark Sun is a sort of a far future world. So it's a bit like Numenera, where Dark Sun is a far future fate of a world like Dungeons and Dragons, like Toril, for instance. If all the gods left or died one day, or the primordials took over. So, for instance, on Abeir, Toril's sister planet, it's ruled by primordials. So you could actually say that there's no limitation on spell use on Abeir. So you can cast spells beyond 9th level on Abeir if you wanted to. Of course, you have to contend with the fact that the place is ruled by primordials and dragons. So, you know. But it's also a legit campaign setting. Yeah, Thun is very surreal. Arch-Lich versus a greater mummy. Who wins? Arch-Lich. Other than Ravenloft, are there any other large demi-planes and in D&D history of note? Yeah, Eberron. Eberron is technically a demi-plane. Netflix's The Dragon Prince. I haven't seen The Dragon Prince. At the moment, I'm watching this god-awful sci-fi on Netflix called Other Life. I don't know if any of you have made it past the first few episodes. I'm actually quite a significant way into the series, and it doesn't get better. It is a rolling train wreck of a sci-fi show. Which is unfortunate because it's got a lot of good aspects to it, but the the writing for that show is just bloody awful. Just really bad. Yeah, Eberron was created by super powerful dragons. Or at least that's the mythology of Eberron. Yeah, Dragon Turtle, that's what I'm talking about as well. So by a classless system, you can, if you don't even, it actually makes more sense not to use experience points if you're using a classless system. Essentially, you just give them points. So instead of earning inspiration, you would earn an advancement point. And you can spend those advancement points to buy, because it would require the DM going through all of the different classes and assigning a point value to different features of different character classes. And it would need to make sense, because to stop just completely over-the-top power gaming and min-maxing, you would need to have a story-based reason why your character has learned those abilities. So you don't just I'm a half-druid now, I'm in the middle of a city and I've learned how to speak with rodents. It's like, how? When did that happen? So I think changing like I often say, if your relationship with your friends around the table is good, then the rules don't matter. You can change up anything in D&D. If you're unfamiliar with the people that you're playing with, be very reluctant to make changes to the base setting of D&D, because you can run smack bang into somebody who's manipulating the rules to essentially dominate the story and everybody at the table, which is a dick move. But I've seen time and time again where people power play, and they're oblivious to the fact that they're nullifying other people's enjoyment of the game at the table, because they'll just trump straight over top of somebody's storyline by, ignoring the fact that I'm developing my character's backstory and the relationship with trying to find his lost father, blah blah blah, and then this other person's like, let's fight a dragon, and the city burns. It's like, well, your storyline is fucked now because this guy's done this because he wants to. It's like, that's not actually very good. You've got to have respect for other people's character paths. Yeah, the Expanse is coming back on another network. I think also the Orville is leaving Fox, which is great, and it's going over to something else. I'm not entirely sure which network it is. I've actually been really enjoying the Orville. It's comedy, but there's a bit of politics and stuff behind it as well. They actually cover some social issues. Farscape. Yeah, Farscape. I got mixed feelings about Farscape. Some of the episodes were really good, some of them were shit. Some of the effects were really good, some of them were crap. I will say that the character Rigel has a stark resemblance to a particular political figure right now. If you really look at Rigel, you'll see what I mean. Yeah, I've got some exposure to Eberron, but as Ian will testify, I've never really got Eberron very well. So I've kind of given up. Oh, Another Life. Yeah, it's painful to watch. It's painful. It's like, who in their right mind would put these people on a spaceship together? No way. It's crazy. And one of the episodes was basically just, hey, we're all young people, let's have sex on a spaceship. It's just, come on. Seriously? Yeah, I can make anything from glue. It's true. How do we feel about Discord channel for other games, systems, and crossovers? I'm absolutely all for it. If you wanted to play Warhammer 40k on my Discord, by all means, go for it. If you wanted to play Star Wars, Star Trek, anything. I'm okay with it. You want to play Paranoia, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Villains and Vigilantes, Car Wars, Toon, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, old school system rules, Dungeon Lords or Dungeon World. If you wanted to play anything you want, really. Corporation, Call of Cthulhu, D&D Modern. It's no Babylon 5, no way. I think Babylon 5 probably had a bigger budget. No, Orville isn't being cancelled. I doubt that Orville will be cancelled because it's Seth MacFarlane's baby, and that guy is loaded. I mean, he's so successful in his field at comedy TV shows that he essentially went, I'm going to make my own Star Trek series and make it my own way, and I'm going to helm a freaking starship. I'm going to be a Captain Kirk, and he did, and it works. It's a great show. So yeah, I'm all for it. There is a TMNT tabletop. What? You're not aware of the TMNT? Oh my goodness grief. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness is an RPG by Palladium Books that has been around for quite a long time. It's from the very, I should make a video about it, how much I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So way back in the day when we were playing AD&D and we were reading comics and we were listening to Melissa Etheridge and Living Colour and stuff, we read the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic books. This is the original ones by Eastman and Layard, where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were actually serious ninjas and killed people and didn't eat pizza, but they did live in sewers and stuff. The crossover between, I think, Marvel and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is that the ooze that transformed them in the first place, which is a byproduct of the production of a transmat, a teleporter that works across the galaxy, that the Utrons, the aliens that were stranded on Earth, were trying to build to get home again. So the byproduct of their industrial process is this mutagenic ooze. And the overall philosophy behind Eastman and Laird's look at the galaxy, and the reason why you don't have a stellar civilization which has dominated everything, is that the more technologically progressed a species becomes, the more its industrial byproducts drive mutation and splintering in their population until they become separate species. And integrated into the galaxy of the TMNT is these species called the Spinac and the Tubers, and there's the Deants, and there's other species which have sort of regressed. So there's these big crustacean creatures, and the Spinacs and the Tubers were a former galactic civilization which has splintered into all these different mutant varieties. So they've completely splintered their civilization because they don't have any cohesive physical form anymore. The only thing they have in common is either spines or these jet-like tubes through their body, but otherwise their body form can be almost anything. And the tie-in is that this mutagenic ooze was also the stuff that that blinded and gave Daredevil his extrasensory powers. So there's that tie-in for Marvel as well. But yeah, so it's quite a fantastic storyline and quite a fantastic D&D system, because it was one of the first legitimate point-buy systems for creating characters and stuff, and it really works. Eric Wujcik and I think it was Eric Wujcik's main sort of writing in his D&D system for point-buying a character using bioenergy points. It really works really well. And there was various other extensions to it where you could play a mutated human, for instance, and give them advanced powers and stuff. And yeah, overall, Palladium Books was one of my favorite RPGs for a very long period of time. And I know it like the back of my hand, and I know a lot about the TMNT RPG because I played it quite a lot, and I was a very active member of their forums for a long time. Yeah, in fact, I actually wrote some stuff for Palladium Books for the Rifter number 23, so I know a lot about it. Yeah, TMT came about this. Yeah, the adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. Yeah, it was a thing at the time. It was like a trend. Yep, it's for real. Beastmaster. Yep, I've seen it. I really do like Star Trek Voyager as well. That's one of my favorites. I just finished rewatching the entire series on Netflix. Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles includes the TMNT in the sort of modern world setting that you see in the role-playing game. They've also got a post-apocalyptic Earth where mutant animals sort of dominate the rest of the world, and then they've got a human-centric sort of empire with robot technology and stuff, high technology, trying to fight its way back, which is kind of reflected in Rifts, where you've got this human-centric supremacist anti-magic empire called Chi-Town and the Coalition States that are trying to fight their way back in a world swamped by magic. And ley lines that have broken open portals to random dimensions, and other creatures have come through. So that's Rifts for you. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has also got a space-based thing where there's space stations and stuff around Earth and Mars and that sort of thing. So you can play a slightly advanced thing. And then you've got the Turtles Guide to the Galaxy, which includes galactic politics and stuff, and the Triceratons and these other galactic stuff, and of which the Utrom aliens are one of many alien species. And so you can actually play, and they've also got a time traveling one as well, which has got a unique system for time travel. So you can play in different eras of play and using your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. So it's really a fantastic body of work. And because what CR is Shredder, I don't know. Depends on where you want to put them in play. Yeah. TMNT and Daredevil are interwoven canonically. Is it possible to make a warlock pact with a non-sentient entity of enough power like an Elder Primordial, only through a sentient agent, essentially? Yeah, Dragon Turtle, I'd say that's pretty much accurate. Deep Space Nine is okay. It's got, like, some of the characters in Deep Space Nine are really good. Like, there's things to like and loathe about both series. A lot of people don't like Neelix, for instance, from Voyager, or the fact that, and particularly the fact that when Seven of Nine got introduced to the series, it was basically nerd candy. And Kate Mulgrew, who was playing Captain Janeway, didn't appreciate the fact that they basically got rid of Kes. But I don't think Kes was a very stable person as an actor. She certainly has her problems in later life. Please do at least one video on Rifts. I know you've mentioned previously you didn't like it, but I have the book and I want to try it and I want your opinion. Okay. All right. I will. Have I played the hero system? No, I don't think so. What is accurate? Oh, you're talking about Technology in Dungeons and Dragons. There's gods that work against it, and also people don't pursue it universally, because a lot of people just rely on magic. Well, Kess got written out of the story of Star Trek Voyager, because I think at the time, as an actress, she was a bit tired of the role. Also, Chakotay, he got a bit tired of his character not having any sort of storylines that were very interesting. So he was kind of just like the sounding board for Janeway's character a lot of the time. And there wasn't a lot of character development for Chakotay in the later series. Kess kind of got written out, and then they brought in Seven of Nine, which actually makes a lot of sense for the storyline, because there was a lot of Borg-related stuff, and I think her character was really well developed through the series. So much so that she's a part of the Pickard reboot as well. Was it a reboot or a reintroduction of Pickard? Anyway, Pickard's coming, and Seven of Nine is in that as well. Pizza. Does anyone know if Mystra's church has any plans to murder the church of the mad god Cyric? I don't know. Sounds like a good storyline. If Tiamat bred with a normal dragon, would the dragon baby be a demigod, empowered normal dragon, or just a normal dragon? I think she creates spawn. So Tiamat can just lay an egg and create a creature. I don't think she needs to breed with other dragons at all. If she did so, it would just be to dominate them, I think. Am I excited about Zombieland 2 coming out? Yeah. I really like Zombieland. Cardio. Double tap. Tune into Discord for what, Dragon Turtle? How difficult is it to resurrect a dead primordial or god? That's a very good question. Very. So quite often primordials and gods will set in play backup contingencies in case they do get killed, so they get resurrected pretty quickly normally. That's part and parcel of how difficult it is to kill gods. So the main difference is, like, you know how they're sort of split into the astral entity, which is the aspect of belief of everybody who believes in that concept of a god. So it becomes a thought entity in the astral plane. That's your god. That's your god entity in the Elder Realms. So you really have to kill the belief of all those people. So a god has to be forgotten. So that's one of the reasons why it's really hard to kill a god, and it's one of the reasons why it's really hard to resurrect a god, because you have to kickstart the belief again. So you could say there's a statute of limitations on when and how you can resurrect a greater entity, but you can resurrect an aspect of that god that can go about the same process. So yeah, it's tricky. It's different for every different case. Which is to say, in gameplay, you as a DM have the right to create a outlandish series of adventures and quests that culminate in the resurrection of a god. Marvel phase rip. Phase rip was actually a really good system. Yeah, Kess's storyline was interesting, and her return to the show at one point was weird. A mimic loaf of bread, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't necessarily need a consort. They're like her squeezy stress toys. What is a primordial and how is it different from an archomental? From what I understand, primordials are just a term for ancient and powerful beings from before who created the multiverse. Yeah, we don't actually know who created the multiverse. We don't know who created the spheres in the phlogiston. We don't know who invented planar travel. It's just one of those assumptions that we make in D&D. Primordials are entities that have godlike power because there were no limitations on what they could be. For instance, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star-Lord's dad, Ego, the living planet, is a primordial because he just came into existence in the middle of space and didn't know who he was or what he was. And so he sort of determined what he would be and built himself into this entity of godlike power, who's immortal, just came into existence randomly. So imagine in some situations and in different eras and different times and different places in the Dungeons and Dragons multiverse, beings just come into existence as they're a unique species in and of themselves, and that's a primordial. It's an entity with no connection to anything else. It's just this thing. So it's a mistake to think of primordials purely as the beginning of something. They're not. They're just unique individual entities that don't have any counterparts in any race or anything like that. They're individual entities, life forms, sentiences that can have godlike power. But they don't need worshippers or believers or anything like that, like gods do. So they're not astral entities. Actually, that's a pretty good definition. They're non-astral, so they're not like gods because they're not present on the astral plane. "100% gamer geek." That's true. Deeply nerdy. The worst dad in Marvel would probably have to be Thanos. Well, yeah, I mean, Star-Lord's dad was going to kill him if he didn't turn out to be able to contain his power. So, yeah, Star-Lord's dad's probably the worst. Breeding children as an experiment is not good. I think we can all agree to that. Oh, there was an incident. Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief. So the actor that played the bad guy in Percy Jackson, son of Mercury, I think it was, something like that. He, there's a convention in Auckland here called Armageddon, which is like our Gen Con for New Zealand, and the actor came on stage just after some guys from, I think it was Stargate or something like that. Was it Stargate? I think it was Stargate. Or maybe it was Doctor Who. No, it was definitely Stargate. So the actor who plays Tilk and somebody else was on stage, and it had a big crowd that came to see them, and then they left the stage, and immediately the actor from Percy Jackson Lightning Thief came on stage, and really it was the fault of the organisers because they should have allowed time for the crowd to change, because different, like, younger people were coming in to sit down and stuff, and older people were getting up and going away. But when the actor came in and sat down, and essentially half the audience just got up and left, and it was devastating to that person's ego, and I feel sorry for them to this day, to to witness that, but that was really, yeah, our intention was not to insult that particular actor, but like we had no interest in Percy Jackson Lightning Thief the movie. Unfortunately, we were there to see somebody else. Yeah, Drow would definitely do that, breeding children for experiments. I'm the only live streamer who drinks coffee live? Really? So would it be big bad if a strong primordial being became a god somehow, or just absurdly difficult to deal with? They do, quite often. So there's no restriction on a primordial becoming a god. It's just that whole aspect of gaining worshippers and becoming an astral entity. So in some ways, the restriction on a primordial becoming a god is the primordial's ego itself, because a god is an astral entity. I don't know how likely it is for a primaterial being to ascend to becoming a thought construct, astral entity, because in many ways they're losing their independence and gaining a dependence on the people who believe in them. So the thought construct that they are is based on the belief of mortal creatures, for the most part. So it's tricky. Bring Stargate lore into D&D. Yeah, well, Stargate lore already exists in D&D. It's called Planescape. I live stream. I do. It's true. I seem to be catching a lot more people on this longer live stream, because I'm like 36 minutes over what I normally do. Hey, bug. Am I not? No, my Greed Dragon doesn't like coffee. He likes money and jewels. See, he's got a hoard. He's got rings, coins. He's actually got a hoard. Caramel Luna. Where are we? Our party exterminated a colony of mind flayers. Our DM had us lapse 1 year into the future, and we recently have been alerted of the pneumonia of dead standing up and wandering off. Phenomena. Sorry. Pneumonia. Phenomena of dead standing up and wandering off. We theorize that this was caused by a lich. Other things of note, we found a strange circular clearing, discovered that phase spider venom and eggs had been stolen from a local abjurer, and there have been a few murders. Do you have any insight on this mystery? Looks like your DM is doing his job well. No, I don't. Play the game. Don't ask me. You've never seen the Stargate show? Start with... I wouldn't say start with SG-1. I would say start with Stargate Atlantis. Let's try that. Stargate Atlantis is pretty good. Yeah, it was definitely on the head of the people who are in charge of the con. They should never let that happen. I don't care how pressed for time you are, allow time for the crowd to change before bringing in the talent. Double tap. Yes, a primordial is like a Catan, and a god is like a warp god in 40k. Yes, that's exactly it. I think this bug likes the smell of coffee. What are you doing? The Monster Manual agrees with me. Good. Well, a primordial that... Like, for the most part, I think primordials are immortal, but they can sometimes be killed. Devils as well, of course, are immortals. So, yeah, I guess if they like the idea of being worshipped, then You could have an interesting incident where a god kills the primordial that it came from. So that's an interesting storyline. So imagine you've got a primordial which is like a Thanos type character who just wants ultimate power, and they see the ability to change reality that gods have as being the ultimate power. They want to create a world or something like that to rule over. And they progress to the point where they get such fear and renown that an evil entity known as them germinates on the astral plane, or perhaps one of the lower planes of the outer planes of existence. So somewhere in Hades, this version of them, this dark prince of Thanos, of death, in love with death, an Orcus type character, manifests, and then it immediately goes out into the world and tries to kill the being which it sees as a rival to its ultimate power. So it's got the same goals and motivations, and it sees its original self, the inspiration for it, as a rival, and then goes out and tries to kill it. So you've got two evil entities, very powerful evil entities, who are at odds with each other because they are so similar. That's an interesting storyline. Yeah, Stargate is a really good. I would say start by watching the Stargate movie, the original Stargate movie that inspired the entire thing. Start with that, and then if you like that movie, start watching the original series. Yeah, don't use text to speech. It doesn't work. Well, it's getting there. It's a lot better than it used to be. Never played a game where we were primordials, no. Can you become a primordial, or does it just happen randomly? I don't know. Bit of both. They're all unique. Elemental lords can be treated as gods, yes. Like, for instance, we talk about Yansibin and those sort of archomentals and stuff. We give them personality. Or they were given personality. They were given ego. But most primordial, like most elemental lords, don't really have that sort of personality. They're alien. You finally started watching Star Trek out of boredom. That's as good as excuse as any. I think it's perfectly okay to include the Stargate ring portals in D&D. I mean, that's a perfectly workable system. We understand how it works. It's got its limitations. What minion is better, skeletons or zombies as a necromancer? Me personally, I would choose skeletons because they're less icky. I mean, zombies stink, dude. They're horrible. They attract pests. Skeletons are nice and clean. Oh, I'll pop into Discord later on, and I'll you can just message me directly, Dragon Turtle. Every player in my party is either a full caster or a half caster, and I'm struggling a bit, making challenging encounters for them. Any tips? I just don't want to say, bam, anti-magic zone. Make them compete over the same magical items that benefit their spell casting. Give them... there's actually... there's a whole group of non-magic people who are fighting against the return of magocracies such as Netheril for instance. So that's one of the factions of Toril. So you can have anti-magic groups who actually are targeting spellcasters because they see it as causing, abominations and horrors in the world. And they can come from all different ranges of backgrounds, mainly rogues and rangers. So certainly have that sort of thing. And what they do typically is they close into hand-to-hand combat really quickly with mages. Certainly give them lots of instances where they have large groups of smaller creatures which swamp them, which makes it very difficult to use area effect spells. So swarms are quite difficult to deal with. And also, so don't give them like single instances of large creatures that they can all concentrate their spells on. They need to split up and use their spells, because typically area effect spells are a little bit limited in D&D, their resources. Don't give them a chance to rest. Don't give them the chance to recuperate their spell slots. Make them burn them up. Have them stuck in situations where they are literally grueling their way through. And if you can get them to the point where they're pretty much out of spells, they have to rely on their role-playing and thinking. You'll have to excuse the guinea fowl. It's getting towards breeding season, and there's some new girls in the group that the young males are arguing over. So I hear a lot of this bullshit going on all the time. That broke them up. Magical girl best race. Play games and read magic gaming books. Yeah. Magical racists. Yeah, pretty much. Well, they've got good reason. I mean, the Forgotten Realms is recovering from a relatively recent empire of massively dominant magocracy, which were very, very anti-non-magic people. So there was this clear divide in Netheril society where the haves floated in literal flying cities above the have-nots, and they exploited them terribly. And thought nothing of wizard duels amongst their towering egos that blighted and devastated large areas with not a care in the world about the people who are struggling to survive. Mages can just create food and water, when they need it. They didn't care about farmland and stuff. And Netheril turned into the Anarok Desert, because of this blight of their excessive magic use attracted otherworldly creatures, which damn near would have destroyed the world if a trio of gods didn't step in and create the Shan. So, yeah. I imagine guinea fowl tastes good. We haven't eaten any of our guinea fowl, and I don't think we will. Teach them who's boss. Yeah. Basically show my face and say, shut up! Yeah, they know I'll go out there and I'll yell at them. The thing with free-range birds is they have to deal with cats and hawks and things like that, so they're actually pretty wily. Yeah, they're very vocal birds. They've got different calls of different threats and things. I think only the prime material plane has alternate dimensions. I don't think there's alternate dimensions of Hades or any of the outer planes, and I don't think there's alternate dimensions of the inner planes either. So, yeah. One thing I do have is alternate dimensions of the Shadowfell or the Feywild. So I'll often refer to the green path being a way of moving through the Shadowfell, which, because you're moving through a dream, and the dream can wake you up in different realities, I allow the idea of traveling through the shadow, traveling through the Feywild and coming out in a different realm of existence. So you literally go to sleep in one place and wake up somewhere else, sort of thing. Like the Feywild is a dream. It's a fairy tale. Sunfish and moonfish are delicious, yes, but they're also very rare. Karseri, yeah. Karseri is like a Russian doll. Nesting doll. Power word. Shut up! Yeah. What sort of things would Yog Sothoth be from Lovecraftian lore be interested in within Faerun? I don't know. I haven't used him yet. The Prime has a sort of special place within the multiverse, for instance, Primes versus Planars. Yeah, do the Feywild and Shadowfell also have these properties? Yeah, I think they do. Like, it's kind of weird because both the Shadowfell and the Feywild are reflections of the Prime Material world, but they're dreamlike in a way. So the Feywild is dreams and fairy tale. The Shadowfell is depression, darkness, dankness, and doom. So it's more akin to undead and dark forces, things on the downward spiral in the Shadowfell. Whereas the Feywild is headed towards the celestial path, sort of thing. So it's on its way. It's halfway between reality and belief. So yeah, you could say that you've got the Prime Material here, and say you've got a ring of the outer planes, and you've got the positive material plane and the negative material plane. So you take the ring and you tilt it this way, right? So the positive outer planes are further towards the positive material plane, ultimate, like happy good times, and then you've got the negative outer planes are closer towards the negative material plane, and then you've got the Feywild and the Shadowfell are on the middle of that axis, so they're headed from the Prime Material towards positive on the Feywild and towards negative on the Shadowfell. If you look at it like a geo model, that's one representative way of looking at it. Fey Underdark versus actual Underdark, which is more dangerous? The Fey Underdark is dangerous because it's got its own rules. So much like fairy tales and nightmares and dreams and things. So in the Feywild, you're crossing over. It's hard to get away, and it's hard to get into the Feywild and hard to get out of the Feywild because you're falling into a dream. And dreams have got their own rules. So when you're in a dream, everything that happens makes sense to that dream. And the same sort of thing applies in the Feywild. So if you're in a dark version of the Feywild, you're in a nightmare. So nightmares have got their own rules as well. And it's very hard to get out of those rules. So that's the way it works. So the good aspect of the Feywild and the bad aspect of the Feywilds are both different aspects of dreams. So it's like good dream, nightmare dream. The Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac from Diablo 1. Yeah. Right, everybody. It's time for me to go. This has been an extra long, 2-hour long live stream. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks to everybody who donated. Much appreciated. Time for one last question. Feywild is a wonderland. Yeah. Yeah, the Feywild is very much Shakespeare's Midsummer Night Dream and Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. It's that, and it's also the Three Little Pigs. It's also Rapunzel, Cinderella, all of those. In the Feywild, somebody can go bibbly bobbly boom and turn a pumpkin into a stagecoach. You know, they don't need to worry about casting a spell. They just wave a wand and transmogrify something. Favorite cheese. Hey, thanks, Kahas Duke. Can we get you to switch to tea as a stream starter? There are so many different types in. No, I hate tea. I don't drink. I don't put milk in things, and tea is quite horrible. Like green tea's okay in some instances, but for the most part, nah. I'd rather just drink water. So no, sorry. Coffee. Also, I need tea is more addictive to me than coffee is. Yeah. Shut up and take my money. What do D&D people call nightmares? Oh, you mean the creature or a bad dream? Depends on the language. Don't forget that we're interpreting what their language is. They're not actually speaking English. Terrassa is the common language of Faerun, for instance, and it sounds like a cross between Italian and French. It doesn't sound like English at all. No problem, Thor the Godly. No, Kikastuk is not like coffee. Coffee has 11,000 different alkaloids. Caffeine is only one of them, and it's actually tasteless and odorless. It's the iocane powder of drugs. I happen to be quite resistant to caffeine, but I love the flavour of coffee. Every cup of coffee tastes a little bit different to me. Tea, on the other hand, is I don't like the tannins. They are distasteful. Yeah, stay hydrated. Especially since I drink so much coffee. I've got to stay hydrated. Okay, everybody. Going for reals. Thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, we've got a video on the Devourer coming up this week. Also some Spelljammer stuff. I'll be reading some more stories to my Patreons. And if I can get time, I'll do one on giant slugs as well this week. So plenty of stuff coming up. And thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next weekend for another live stream. Same time, same channel.